Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of the Happiness Retreat. I am your host, Kimberly Treves, and today we have the good fortune to be in conversation with my dear friend and colleague, the beautiful and multi talented Jennifer Bloome, who is a soul abundance guide, energy healer, master soul language practitioner, and podcast host. Jennifer guides people to reawaken their soul money relationship so they can create lasting peace and abundance. Hello, Jennifer, and thank you so very much for taking your time to share with us today.
Hey, Kimberly, it's wonderful to be here. I'm honored that you asked me to be here.
This is exciting because this is a hot topic. I mean, we both know
Yeah, yeah.
the people that have money are like, we don't need to hear any of that. And then there are people that are like, so
Mm,
here we go. Nothing to be afraid of, right?
that's right. And who would be, you know what? People who have money, it's a good listen as well, because just because you have money doesn't mean you're happy.
Love that. Love that. Thank you.
So we'll just toss that one in there. How about?
Perfect. So, as this conversation, as all of our happiness retreat conversations are all about spirituality, the soul, and becoming the master of your own energy, I am so happy that you're here with us today to help people to understand what the soul money relationship is and how it is a true vehicle for transformation. So, Jennifer, I'm going to give you the floor. Can you please tell us about your background, your education, and what prompted you to be so interested in all things money that you now help others with their relationship to it?
Yeah, I'm happy to. So, you know, um, if 18-year-old me looked at what 51-year-old me is doing now, she'd have been confused. I started out in the sciences. I have a background, my undergraduate's in psychobiology. I went on to be an occupational therapist, really into the world of science. Soul had nothing to do with my life. And then I started a family and had an idea that, there's got to be something more. There just has to be something more. It was around the time insurance was changing, and the professionals were doing the paperwork, and the assistants were doing the treatment, and I just said enough. I don't want to do this anymore, and really felt that tug that said, there's something bigger for you to do. But I didn't have a clue. I didn't know what that was. So I did what I did well, which is I went back to school. I got a health and wellness counseling degree and learned a lot about spirituality. And what was really funny is that, and funny, you look back, everything is always interwoven, right? Around that time, was going through some challenges, health wise, pregnancy wise, but then also money wise.
Mm.
But I started my work actually following people who were pregnant or who were having difficulty getting pregnant, because that was really my main focus at the time. And I was doing that business and it was going well. But my husband ended up getting laid off a number of times. We had a lot of medical bills. We did a whole bunch of things and we ended up in bankruptcy.
Wow.
Yeah. And at the time I thought it was, oh, my husband was unemployed. We had the medical thing. I thought that was the reason for the bankruptcy. But what I started to do was apply the same tools I was applying for fertility to money. And I was doing it personally, and all the spiritual tools that I was applying. And I realized, oh, it had nothing to do with Douglas being unemployed. It had nothing to do with the medical bills. I mean, that was the mechanics of it, but
Right.
I was getting a big old 2x4 that I was playing out these unconscious beliefs of not enoughness through my money story. And with that big aha came the understanding that, okay, let's add some soul here. And as I did that, and as things improved for me, I decided that it was time to share that with my clients. So I while I still have a foot in the fertility world, I also now have this love of bringing soul to money and helping people really understand what money really is, because it's not what most of us think that it is. And so then everything from there just has unfolded beautifully. Here I am today.
I love that you've for lack of a better term, you've reinvented yourself. Like you started with one passion. When that passion didn't fit anymore, you gave yourself permission to move on to a new passion instead of staying and being so unhappy, which so many of us do, because the money was there. It was known. So thank you for bringing that to light. And so what does it mean? So what is money?
What is money? So money, all money is a tangible representation of the divine. It's just one of the ways that the divine is present on this planet. I think about other ways that the divine is present, meaning like art, nature, clearly, love between two people, relationships between two people, right? Divinity really shows itself in those ways. And money is simply a physical representation of the divine. And we tend to think about it as transactional, right? We tend to think that, okay, well, I get money because of the action that I take. And that's true, right? When we go to a job and we work and we put in our hours, we get a paycheck for that. So there's truth to it, but it's so much bigger than that.
So if money is a part of the divine, a part of creation, and if all of creation is divine, how can money be the root of all evil? And how
Uh,
can the rich get richer and the poor get poorer? And how can all of these statements that are floating around the planet help me with them?
so if you want my honest to goodness, unvarnished belief about that, is that money has been co-opted to be a source of power.
Hmm.
And so it really served the people who were writing the religious texts. And spoiler alert, it wasn't God who, wrote the Bible. They were men writing the Bible who, I mean, okay, we don't need to go down that pathway because, anyway, but as things were translated, that was used to keep power, to hold people in check. And so I think that there were a lot of things that were written in that were to serve the people who were already in power. So if we at the church tell you that money is evil, then you're not going to be an upstart and come and take over. You're going to be a good person, and you're going to give your tithe your money to the church instead of, right, instead of living your own life. So I think that right, so there's all kinds of beliefs that were enc- encoded into us and then become part of our consciousness, the collective consciousness, and we just all kind of grow up with that idea that money is evil. And of course we can look around. All you have to do is look around and watch how some people work with their money. And yeah, there are a lot of people out there doing really awful things with their money. They are we are keeping some people away from being able to have resources because of the way we've set up our laws. There are people who are funding things that we just can't. It's just unbelievably horrible what people are funding, and so it's this little bit back and forth of, okay, we've got these collective thoughts. We're looking around, we're witnessing it, we're seeing that things are happening, and of course we've got universal law working with us. So we have those beliefs, and then we keep seeing what's happening. And then the universal beliefs, right? The idea of attraction. If you have money and we've talked about, the Rockefellers and the Vanderbilts and that kind of thing. You get to be a family with money. What happens? You expect to have money. And we live in this, again, like I said, we live in an attraction-based universe. So when there's that expectation that it's going to come, it's going to come. And then we have people around us who do not have those resources, and who frankly haven't had resources for generations. Why would they expect any differently? Right? So it's messy, is what it is.
So if we can disconnect for a moment from our thoughts and our beliefs and the collective consciousness around money, what does it truly mean to have a relationship and be in relationship with money?
Yeah, that's a good question. So if we can, yes, take a deep breath and let go of what we think we know
Mhm.
including this idea that money is transactional, meaning, I work and get paid, or I go to the grocery store and I want celery and zucchini and I trade my money for it, right?
Yes.
And then we come back to this knowing that money is divine. All right. So, all a relationship is a connection between you and something else. Okay? And we each have a relationship with the divine. Would you agree with that? That we can have a relationship with the divine, right? We have this once we learn how, right?
Yes.
And so it's the same thing with money. The money relationship, the soul money relationship is the connection between you and the divine and the energy of money. And what's interesting is that, this isn't like being in a relationship with your best friend or with your mom. Money and the divine have no free will. They are reflecting back to you what you are asking for. So when you can acknowledge that you're in relationship with money, you get to learn how to work with it in such a way that you can ask and then receive.
Hmm.
Did that answer your question?
It did, and I love that because now you're giving me a visual. I love visuals.
Yes, yes.
It's my engineer, right?
Yeah,
So if there's a triangle and you're one corner of that triangle and the divine is another corner and money is another, since we know that everything in existence on this planet and in the stars or everything in this galaxy that we know of, right, is divine, then we can't see money really as anything other than divine. We can't see ourselves as anything other than divine. So it's a beautiful symbiotic. Is that the word I want? It's a
sure. Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah, yeah.
So it's a beautiful relationship between what if you get rid of all the dogma, it could be a beautiful relationship. So what what's the possibility for those of us that really can't see that it is a divine connection and that we can have a relationship with money? What can you tell us about the possibility of how to open up that relationship?
Right, right. So the first thing is to acknowledge,
Mm,
right? It's to acknowledge that money is a divine resource. That's the first place we have to go, right? If we're gonna open up this relationship, we kind of have to get on the boat, right? And say, okay, I'm gonna remember that this is what this resource is. And then we get to begin to allow ourselves to shift into a leadership position. A lot of us seem to give money all the power, meaning, well, when I have X amount of money, then I can be happy. When I have X amount of money, I can do what I really want to do. When I have X amount of money, then I'll be safe. When I have X amount of money, I can retire. Puts all the power in money's court. And that money goes, okay, I don't have free will. If that's how you want to play this game, right? If that's how you want to play it, then that's fine. Tongue in cheek, and no
right.
offense, no offense meant, but really, truly, that's what we have. I think that's one of the most important things to remember when you're opening up this relationship. Is that, again, I'll say it, and this is probably the third time I've said it. Money has no free will,
Mhm.
right? So you really get to be the architect of how this relationship is going to work. If your belief structure leads you to say, I have to scrimp and save and work my us off to get what the money that I want, again, money goes, okay, let's do that. But what if we gave ourselves permission to have a little bit more of what we wanted? What if we could step in and say, hmm, if I'm really the leader of this relationship, what if I could ask for something even more?
Mm.
right? And then you get into this really amazing space to say, you talked about how um, uh, I, I didn't box myself into a job that I didn't like and just stayed because of the money,
Yeah.
right? Now you have, when you realize that you get to be the leader, now you get to say, what's possible? How can I step into what I really want and receive at the same time?
Yeah. So a lot of people are afraid of money for various reasons, right? That you pointed out, because they've given money the job to keep them safe and make them happy, and the long list that you mentioned. And they think of money as outside of themselves and not in relationship with themselves. So they think they can't control a lot of what they see coming into their bank account, or the abundance that they have, So how can they improve? How can we all improve our relationship that we currently have with money?
Right. So the first piece of this is understanding, I mean, really understanding what the relationship is all about. So I talk about money having three different aspects to it. Or I'm sorry, our soul money relationship having three different aspects to it. We have the relationship with ourself, we have the relationship with the divine, and relationship with money, right? So if you come back to that, to the triangle, we were
Yeah.
talking about, right? So we have individual relationships with each part of that triangle, and then that is what's going to define how what kind of output that we get, right? What kind of money is coming from there. So in order to really improve it, you can start in any of those corners that maybe feel most comfortable to you. So for example, if I'm looking at my relationship with myself and I'm thinking about money and thinking, okay, well, what I've been taught is money is evil. And so what happens if I get the kind of money that I want? What's that going to do to me? Well, if money is evil and I get the kind of money that I want, does that make me evil? Does that make my character, right? Does that drive who I'm going to become? All right. Well, now wait a minute, right? So that's when you get to do a little bit of critical thinking.
Mhm.
And sometimes it helps to have somebody to help you along because you can only see what you can see.
Right.
But when you start to question that and say, no, wait a minute, but money's divine and the divine is unlimited. And that means money's unlimited, which means that so that's one piece, and then it's part of the divine, and the divine is love. So if I have access to this unlimited pool of love, does it really make sense that my character is going to change? Does it really make sense about what people have been talking about how money is bad and dirty and evil, right? So you begin to you can begin to start asking this questions of those other aspects. Again, relationship with the divine. Um, you get to ask that question of, do I really believe that I am a unique strand of the divine? And that can open up a whole kettle of fish, right? Because we're taught that not only is money outside of us, but the divine is outside of us.
Absolutely. And if you were indoctrinated in the beautiful Catholic Church, you were taught you're an original sinner and you're going to go to hell. And oh, if you're a woman, you're a double sinner because you're a descendant from Eve and she was bad. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of strikes
recovering
against you.
Catholic,
Yeah,
recovering Catholic. But just to tell you how literally oppressive
right.
that entire and then and you see Christ on the cross. You see a dead person on the cross the whole time you're in that church. What does that do to a child's mind? I mean, yeah. So there are so many things that are keeping us from feeling ourselves as divinity, and certainly, like we've talked about, all the dogma and statements about money as being divine. So, yeah.
Right. So you begin to um you begin to get curious. That's the thing that I really ask people to do. Let's get a little bit curious about this. And what's possible in terms of my relationship with the divine. If I can remember that I am a unique strand of the divine, right? I'm a soul on this planet. I'm a unique stand of the divine. What does that really mean about me? Well, gosh, that means that I have access to all of those divine resources. It's all right. It's so much more internal. And the thing is, this gets a little bit out there, right? It's like, okay, so it's all of this thought patterning and thinking about beliefs. And so what I have found so helpful, especially in the area of the divine and in money, is to have some sort of tangible tool that you can reach to help be able to answer some of these bigger questions,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
And I have a number of tools in my tool belt, but the one that I reach for the most these days is soul language. And soul language is a paradigm that puts tangibility to soul. And it's all about this idea that we come with three core energies. We come with three languages. There are 107 languages of the divine. We get to have three when we come in. And as when those it was a game changer for me when I had my energies identified,
Mhm.
and for a number of reasons. One of which, and I'll get back to the main story in a moment, but let me tell you, I'm a pioneer. It explained everything about who I was and why I made all the choices. Why was I a psychobiologist and then an occupational therapist and then a full-time mom and then a part-time mom and then a full-time mom and then an in-school mom and then teaching wellness, teaching fertility, teaching money? Because I'm a freaking pioneer. I'm
Yes.
always going to do something new, right? And what's really cool about this particular paradigm is you learn how to talk to these parts of yourself. You get to really acknowledge that you are divinity. You are three of the voices of the divine.
Mm.
And when those kind of tools come in, it's so much easier, right? To begin to throw out what no longer fits and highlight the pieces that are really true.
Absolutely. And we will get back to the soul language, but I have a question for you.
Of course.
So, I've heard of people, I wish to be one of them someday, who have won the bajillion-dollar lottery not once, but several times. And now they are living in poverty.
Yeah.
What stops people from A, getting what they want, having what they want, even when they're gifted it through the lottery, keeping what stops us from that?
Okay. So really good question. We have all right, so we have desires for what we want. And and I'm going to say, if these words like trigger, pick a different word. But so we have wants, we have desires. And then we also have beliefs and expectations. So let's say I'm somebody who has an incredible desire to have so much money that I can finally relax, right? And I focus and I say, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming." And the divine says, okay, crack of least resistance, you like to play the lotto, here you go, right? Here's lottery, here's your $1 million, here's your 5.7 your $10 million, right? The problem is, a lot of times people who get money in that way have a belief and expectation that they're not going to be okay with money, right? There's old stories that say, I can't handle money. I don't trust money, or I'm the kind of person who never has enough. Or they're a person who at their core, right, has that core belief, I'm not enough. And no amount of desire else can trump, well, I mean, the desire got them the money, but you can't hold it, because eventually those old beliefs come to the surface and you spend time in fear and worry. And so now you have experiences that take that money away and take that money away and take that money away and take that money away, and you end up in a worse position than you were before.
So So, Jennifer, not only do we have all of the dogma around money is the root of all evil, the rich get richer, the poor get poorer, but we also have all of these limiting beliefs and thoughts and patterns where we're not enough, we're not worthy. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, really, with our relationship to money. How
You
do we get past that?
Yeah, no, that you want to ask me a bigger question? Yeah,
Right?
no, right. It is, and it's so true. Money is something that we are dealing with from the time we are itty bitty, and in fact, I would even say that from in utero. There's a lot of science to show that as a woman is stressed,
Mm.
her baby feels it as well, and that whole stress cycle creates different architecture in the brain. So we literally come out whether we can be resilient to stress or not, and yada yada yada. There's a lot going on, right? And money is a big stressor. So we learn from our parents, we learn from our family members just by watching them build tension around money. So those beliefs start to get formed. We hear the external dogma, and then we have times where you're talking to your parent and you're like, "Ooh, I want that new pair of jeans," and they're like, "Stop! We can't afford that." Or,
Right.
"Who are you? Who are you to ask for a new pair of jeans? Why don't you get a job?"
Hey, how
And
about this? Why do you want a new car?
yeah. Right. Exactly. Exactly. And they can be a lot subtler than that,
Right.
right? Or they can be in your face kinds of things that you hear. So what we really need to do is first and I mentioned this word earlier, is about getting curious.
Mm.
Like, what am I really thinking about money? What am I really believing about money? And how do I know that that's true with a capital T? If and you can imagine,
Mm.
even doing a really short visualization. If you can imagine sitting next to money, and if you can, and for just a moment, let go of everything that you knew about money, and just think of it as that really beautiful divine ribbon of love, and take what you're thinking about money and putting it into this river of love. Does it match or does it not match? And that's your first understanding that, oh, I'm believing something that isn't true. My brain thinks it's true. My body's going to tell me that the only way to be safe is to believe that. And so at that point, when you know that you're ready to shift a belief, right, then there's all different ways that you can do belief shifting. EFT is one of my favorites. I love working with a technique like that. And part of it is, again, is making that realization and choosing a new thought.
Hmm.
And you get to choose that new thought over and over and over again. Or you can use a tool like EFT or EMDR or any of the multiple tools that are out there to help you shift beliefs, so that you can start to have a new core understanding of number one, who you are, and who you are in with money. And the thing that I really love about money is a fantastic teacher. And and it's not just the evil, it's not just the bad lessons too, right? Going through a bankruptcy, how can I say that money is a fantastic teacher? But I don't know how much longer it would have taken for me to finally realize that I was enough,
Hmm.
if I didn't have the trauma of going through that bankruptcy and really having to look at it. I finally had the opportunity to say, okay, I am of the divine. Well, I must be enough, because nobody ever asked the divine, "Hey, divine, you feeling enough today?" The divine, it is, right? It just is. And so I'm not going to say that it's a snap of the fingers, easy peasy, but it gets to be elegant, and it gets to really take you in a direction. Working with your money beliefs takes you in this direction of finally claiming who you really are. So yeah, it can be beautiful work.
Yeah. So money can be a mirror
Hmm.
to worthiness and how
Hmm.
we feel about ourselves, and it's an outward expression of that.
Right. And that's money's job. Money's job is to reflect what you believe.
Okay.
So and that's not to say that if your money is reflecting not much in the bank account, it doesn't mean that you're not enough. It means you're believing you're not enough.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Wow, we came to this planet for fun, huh?
I know, I know, I know, I know. When I get into those places, I'm like, wow, this really sounded like a better idea on the other side. Like, what was I thinking?
Exactly. I'm going to Venus next time.
That's right. Gonna float around a little bit, not get down to this really heavy weighted gravity focused planet, right?
Exactly. You don't need money there.
No, not yet anyway.
Yeah, right?
Till we humans get there and decide to, put all our rules on it.
Yeah, the smart people get there, right? Holy cow. So, Jennifer, I am sure this conversation has been more than enlightening because I mean, I can honestly say, and spoiler alert, I have taken some courses with Jennifer and they are fabulous. Um, I'm sure that this notion that money is divine and there's a divine money me relationship and everything that we've talked about, I'm sure people, this is the first time they're hearing some of this really revolutionary type information. So can we run through your list of platforms that you offer your tribe?
You bet. You
All
bet.
right, so tell us about your podcast.
Oh, yes, yes. I love my podcast. So I've been podcasting for about a year, and the name of it is Soul Wisdom Abundance: Create Wealth Through Spiritual Health. And so I have a wide range of guests that come, and we talk about all of these. We have a topic, and so sometimes we're talking about enoughness. I just interviewed a woman today, Barbara Huson, who has a book called Rewire for Wealth. So we were talking about some of the neurobiology that goes into rewiring the brain. So all different kinds of topics, and you're going to just really begin to get soaked into all of these the new ideas. And it's an hour long. It's on the first and third Friday of every month, but you can also get all the replays. I've got them on my website under the radio button, and you can find them on iTunes and Spotify, all the places that you would look for your where you listen to your regular podcasts.
Ah, that's fabulous. Yay.
Yeah.
So how about we'll circle back to the soul language because we did want to get a few things in before this. So tell us about how building from the paradigm of soul language with money.
Right. So with soul language, again, that we have our personal languages. Those are three core languages that make up who we are at a soul level. These are literally pieces of your soul. So that is one thing that I offer, is to be able to identify those languages for you out of the 107. And then I also um one of the so that work is not mine. That's Jennifer Urizio's work, and it's just a brilliant paradigm. But what I did with the paradigm then was to say, okay, we know not only do we have these personal core energies, but also anything we're in relationship with, we brought core energies to support. And again, that's Jennifer's work. But what I did with money was to say, okay, in our relationship with money, these divine voices have a little bit different role. And so I received a download from the divine about the descriptions and the roles of these 107 languages in relationship to money. So one of the things I do is I can then identify your three languages with money. So you have a main mission language with money. Your second language is the energetic how. People are always asking me, how do I make more money? And that language helps you understand how your soul prefers from an energetic level to create. And then your final language is the being state, the feeling state that is going to help allow money to flow. And so again, that's something that I can help identify.
That's a
And
beautiful soul language is a beautiful tool.
well, it is, and as you well know, one of the other things that I do is I train people. So if soul language is something that you get into it and you're like, wow, this is really great, you can also become a practitioner, and I also certify people in becoming a money language practitioner as well. So that's kind of sort of down the road kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that was the first way we worked together because I'm
yes,
yeah.
yes, you are almost. right. And by the time that this is live, you are probably going to be a soul
Exactly.
language practitioner. And I couldn't be more delighted that you're part of our tribe.
Thank you. It has been such a pleasure to have spent so much time with you in that training. And then just serendipitously, you started during this my soul language money training, my money soul language training, you started the prosperity momentum program, which if I could say to anyone, if you really want to get a hugely solid foundational understanding of many of the concepts we've spoken about in this conversation, join Jennifer's Prosperity Momentum program. Do not collect the $200. Do not pass go. Get into that program. So, Jennifer, can you tell us about that?
Oh, well, thank you for those kind words. I love this program. So there's a couple of reasons for this program. The first is that anytime we want to change our belief, it just takes a little bit of time. This is a 30-day program. You got in at a very special time. We were doing 40 days, but it's typically a 30-day program where you learn how to work with your money language teams in a way that's going to help you literally fabricate your new relationship with money. You learn more in depth. We spend a week on each of the aspects of the relationship, and then what you're doing during that time is a sacred practice that that allows you to develop the daily habits that put you in connection with divinity and with creating the next phase of who you're going to be with money. And so that is something you meet with me. We create a whole plan together, and then we meet 30 days. It is a Facebook based group, and then we meet on a weekly basis as a group and learn more about all of the different aspects. And there's a lot to that program. And in fact, there's so much that I then created something called Prosperity Expansion, where you take what you've learned and you're continuing to do it on that daily basis. If you think about any really good relationship in your life,
You work on it.
you work on it, right? And you attend to it, and you have goals around it, and
Yeah.
you help it grow. And of course, any really good relationship, you can step away for just a little bit and you come back like nothing's happened, right? It's not like you have to, the school marm with my finger out going, you got every day. But right, you really do want to attend to it and help it grow. So those two programs are really designed to help to create the habits that allow you to step into this new relationship with money.
So you mentioned that the Prosperity Momentum is a 30-day program.
Mhm.
And how often do you offer that program?
That program comes around 3 or 4 times a year. So
Okay.
then, yeah, yep, the next one will be probably in April or May.
Okay. Because yeah, perfect. We're filming here in January.
Yes.
So the Prosperity Expansion, is that also offered 3 or 4 times per year? And is it how many
No.
days is that?
So with Prosperity Expansion, what we do is we create containers every 34 days. There's a time of reflection and intention setting in between each container. So that is an ongoing program. You can stay as long as you want, or as short as you want, or you can come, can you kind of come in and out as you need help. But I've had people who've stayed for years, honestly, in there, because it's the same format. You're practicing, you're using this vibrate abundance plan to work towards creating your next step, and you're just deepening your relationship and deepening your relationship, and it gives you an excuse, so to speak, to really focus on it.
Yeah, I did want to point that out. So as a meditator, and a meditation teacher, I went through the training and I was very diligent about meditating while I was doing the training. And then I decided, oh, I really want to be a yoga teacher too. So I get into that, and there's more movement. There's not as much quiet contemplative meditation. So I kind of got out of the meditating, got into the yoga. Okay, then I got out of them both, and I'm like, all right. So life happens. You have your sacred practice, and when you're doing your sacred practice for yourself, for I don't want to say a non-specific reason. Everybody knows your own sacred practice enhances your day and enhances your life. Hands down, You cannot argue it, but life gets in the way and you fall off that train. And I don't know why it's so hard to get back on when it's so easy to get off. So one of the things that I had no idea was going to come out of prosperity momentum program was a refortification of my daily sacred practice. And I'm just happier. I'm just happier because it's not as if I'm giving myself permission to take that time. I'm actually saying, I deserve that time every day. And my little me, my heart is like, yay, thank you for paying attention to me.
It's true. It's true. It's so true. And when we live that connection, and I think here's the thing. And this is what the intention is between momentum and expansion. We tend to learn things, right? We learn them in our heads. But
Yes.
when we practice them, we drop it down into the body and we live it and we embody it and we are it. And so sometimes you think, oh gosh, really, do I really have to keep going? And the answer is yes. And but again, but the output of it is peace, right? It's joy. And you think, why do I push myself so hard not to have peace and joy in my life? We're silly. We're weird creatures, us humans, right? And it is kind of hard to get back on the band, get back on the horse, so to speak,
Yes.
when you drop out of that sacred practice. But then and I do too. I'm human. I drop out for a variety of reasons. Again, I can miss maybe one day, and that's fine. But if I miss in 2 days, I'm usually okay. But if I miss 3 days, then I'm off the horse for a while.
Yeah.
And as soon as I get back on, I'm thinking, what was I what was I thinking? This feels so good. And I feel expansive. I'm so much more creative, right? But I don't know, we're human.
Yeah.
If we were perfect, we would disapparate, to use a Harry Potter word, and we'd be back with divinities, right? So
And we'd be on Venus.
and we'd be on Venus, and we'd have a whole new conversation to have.
Would we not? So that we don't forget, you also then, so for someone who wants to just say, okay, I want to dip my toe in the water with Jennifer, I don't want to do a 3-month program or ongoing year-long program. I know you have individual sessions. So like, what do they look like, and what could someone expect to have you help them with during those sessions?
Yeah. So let's say that you're aware that you have a family, acutely aware that you have a family history with money. You were taught that, to be in judgment of people with money, or money ruins relationships, or you're hyper aware that you've got some beliefs that are not serving you. I offer packages of individual sessions. They're an hour long. You and I meet for about an hour, and we use belief shifting techniques, EFT, meditation, guided imagery. It's a whole mix of energy release for the purpose of shifting into a new belief. And in between each of those sessions, I send you a follow up. I give you things to work on if you care to. And usually, so the number of sessions you start with is 3, because usually it's not enough to just do one,
Right.
right? To really build in a new belief. So I offer packages of 3, 6, or 12, whatever is most appropriate. But yeah, those are the individual soul abundance focus sessions.
Mhm.
And yeah, we get in and we do a lot of cleanup work in that first set of 3.
Awesome. And then if someone wants to continue along those lines, but wants to deepen their understanding, you have one more program?
Right. So then I do have a mastery program, right, which could be either 3 or 6 months long, depending on what your goals are.
Mhm.
And we spend time, well, this it's super individual. I even hate to say exactly what happens, but
Yes.
we work on each of the points of the triangle, really deepening into those, and really working. You have to shift who you think you are. Money in particular. If you think you're a bad money manager, or if you think you're bad, I had a client once who said, "Look, I got 2 inheritances, more than $1 million each, and I blew through them. I can no longer trust myself with money." And there was so much shame involved in that, right? But she knew that she needed to work through that. anyway, it can, it's really individual what we do in that mastery program. But if you're just really ready to be shifting and changing who you think you are with money, that's a good one.
Oh, they're all good. People, listen to me. They are all good.
And if I may, there's one other thing to mention.
Oh, yes.
So if you are intrigued by the soul money relationship and you're curious about your own, I have a free quiz on my homepage that's going to help you understand what areas are the strongest and what areas are the weakest in terms of your relationship. And there's an exercise to do to help bring that back into alignment. So that's a really lovely first step as well.
Beautiful. So, all of the ways that we can contact you are going to be available to everyone at the end of this video. So, no one worry. Jennifer's not going anywhere.
Nope. I'm here to stay, baby. I'm here to stay.
Exactly. Jennifer, we covered so much ground today, and I know that people need to hear this, and I know they're going to absolutely love to hear this from you with your beautiful energy and your insights and just the kind way that you, not the kind of way, the very kind way that you offer this knowledge that is just, it's so life changing, and it's just a beautiful thing to be exposed to. So thank you, thank you, thank you for joining us today. I treasure all of your insights and wisdom, and it has been so transformative for all of us already. So thank you so much.
You're so welcome. And I receive all your kind words right into my heart. Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk.
And when you come up with some fabulous new program, please
You'll be
come
the
back
first to know.
again.
Yes, Oh, I would love to. Yes, you'll be first to know.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And to everyone watching, thank you for joining us for another episode of the Happiness Retreat. We hope you have gotten some inspiration, some motivation, some guidance, and some clarity in your connection to your soul and in becoming the master of your own energy and money relationship. So until next time, thank you. Bye.